Hey guys, real quick. Moving too slow, moving at your own pace, or just not moving at all are all forms of disobedience. Especially when you know that God is pushing you out of that season or pushing you out of that relationship or out of that job or whatever the situation may be. And I speak solely for myself. I remember times where God was clearly pushing me out of a position that I had. Every time that I would be promoted, our company would get bought out, and then I would have to, for whatever reason, start back in a position that I had prior. I still had the same money, but I would have to start doing that position again because they would bring other people in. And I had been there for a long time, so they never got rid of me, but I had to just go back to that position. I remember a time where I had applied for a job and I had actually gotten that job, and they gave me a phone call while I was at the job that I was supposed to be leaving, and I turned that job down because my supervisor at that time had offered me a couple of more dollars, and so I stayed. I stayed out of disobedience. I stayed for the money, and I stayed out of fear and stayed because I didn't want to start over, but I was being disobedient to the point where things just started happening and God allowed it. Also, in my relationship, in my marriage, and I'm not telling anybody to leave that marriage, but I stayed a little bit too long. A lot of times we stay too long in places, and I always say this, that end up breaking us spiritually, mentally, emotionally. And I stayed in my marriage way longer than I was supposed to, and over 20 years. And there was a lot of things that went on in that marriage that a lot of people would have walked away from it at the word go. But I stayed. I stayed out of fear. I stayed out of shame. I stayed out of not wanting to start over, not wanting to have to deal. You know, sometimes you think, well, I know what this devil is. I don't want to have to deal with another devil. At least I know what this is. And so I'll deal with it. And a lot of times we stay in situations that God is solely saying, trust me, trust me. And a lot of times we don't trust them. We do what we want to do, and we hold on to those things, and those things bring us more and more pain. What I come on today to tell you is that whatever you're holding on to may be causing you more pain than anything. Release it. Give it to God. He's already authorizing your departure from that situation. You have to leave that situation in order to grow. You have to leave that situation in order for the pain to stop. Sometimes, had I left situations early, I would have caused myself less pain. I brought so much pain on myself mentally and physically and emotionally that it took years. And sometimes I still think about those things. They still haunt me as to why I would stay when a person was treating me this way, or why I would stay on a job where I was looked down on and people didn't respect what I was doing. And I was trying to continue to show my worth and what I could do and how I could help, and showing up on Saturdays and Sundays and whenever they needed me. And staying in a marriage where my husband was gone more than he was at home. And then I would still go to church, come home, praying to God, and just asking God to help me and restore the marriage as if I still had a husband. I was a wife without a husband, but I pretended to have a husband, and I was causing myself so much pain. Had I just let go? What is it that you need to let go? What is it that's causing you pain? What is it that you're afraid to let go? What is it that you're ashamed of letting go because of what you think others may say or what you may think of yourself? I know I used to think that I was a failure. I used to be looking at myself and saying I failed in this and I failed in that. And if anybody knows me, I am in competition with myself all the time with whatever I'm doing. And I just didn't want to be a failure, especially in my marriage. Sometimes we have to change our perspective. Sometimes we have to see exactly what God's word is saying to us. Sometimes we have to be quiet enough just to listen. Sometimes we don't have to ask anybody anything because we already know what God is clearly saying to us. Let go and let God. What's causing you pain today? Let it go. And as I always say, Despite what the world is saying, despite what we even say to ourselves, you're good enough.